Hello, you're welcome to today's video. In today's video, we're going to look at argumentative essays, how to write an argumentative essay and the things to look out for when writing an argumentative essay. I believe in the last video we touched descriptive essays, so in this video, let's look at the argumentative. I would like for you to understand that there are distinct features that make each essay stand out. For example, for the descriptive essay that we touched earlier, we find out that when you are writing a descriptive essay, you have to go all the way with your descriptions and your explanations, especially as it concerns the 5 senses. So what is the difference with an argumentative essay? An argumentative essay is a type of writing that aims to persuade the reader to accept or consider the writer's viewpoint on a particular issue. It involves presenting a clear thesis statement, supporting it with evidence and logical reasoning, and addressing counter-arguments to strengthen the main argument. The goal is to convince the reader through a well-structured and coherent presentation of facts and analysis. So in an argumentative essay, you are trying to convince the person that is reading to see things from your point of view, which is quite different from what you do in a descriptive essay. In an argumentative essay, you present points to the reader, and the aim of these points are to either stand in favor of or against an idea, against a concept, against a topic. And for you to know that you've written a successful argumentative essay, when your reader is done with your essay, your reader is supposed to be convinced beyond reasonable doubt that your point of view is preferred, your point of view is better than the point of view that you're arguing against. So we're going to look at highlighting factors of an argumentative essay. One of the major highlighting factors of an argumentative essay is a clear thesis statement. So the thesis statement is the central argument or claim of the essay, and it should be specific, concise, and debatable, providing a clear direction for the essay. So let's look at the 3 things your clear thesis statement needs to be. It needs to be specific, which means it should be about a particular topic and not just about a particular topic. Your thesis is the central argument, and it needs to be about a particular topic, and it needs to be on a side of the spectrum. You don't present the topic of an argumentative essay, or you don't present your thesis in an argumentative essay and be vague about your stand. In presenting your thesis, that's where you're supposed to make your stand in the argument known. So it should be specific, it should be concise, and it should be debatable. It should be concise in the sense that you don't have to start presenting the points when you're laying down your thesis. You just present your point of view or your argument, be specific with it, make it straightforward. Say, this is my argument and this is why. When you are now talking about the why, that's when you can expatiate in the other parts of the essay, and it should be debatable. What does it mean that it should be debatable? It should not be a topic where your point of view is absolute. There should be a room for debate, okay? There should be room for debate. When you present your thesis, when you present your topic, when you present your argument, it should be something that has other points of view to it. That way, you are setting up yourself for a good argument. So another highlight is evidence and support. You have to use credible sources such as academic articles, statistics, expert opinions, and factual information to support your claims. So ensure that the evidence is relevant and effectively backs up your argument. Unlike a descriptive essay where you just describe from your personal experiences, for an argumentative essay, you have to present factual points. You don't just tell us what you think, you don't just tell us what you feel. When you are writing an argumentative essay and you present your POV, you present your thesis, you should back the thesis up with factual information. Remember, what we're trying to do is convince the reader to see that your point of view is the better point of view. So to do this, you have to give actual real information. You don't just talk about things the way you think they should be or the way you see them. You give actual information and then you let the reader decide. The next is logical reasoning. Employ logical reasoning to connect evidence to the thesis. Avoid logical fallacies such as hasty generalizations, false dilemmas, and ad hominem attacks, which weaken your argument. Now, talking about logical reasoning, it's like an extension of evidence and support. You have to make sure that your argument is standard in the sense that the core of your argument should be logic. Okay, you don't give illogical arguments, illogical reasons just to have something to say about your argumentative essay. You must ensure that your arguments follow logic, your arguments are in line with logic, and you have to avoid logical fallacies. That's, you have to avoid lies that are illogical. You have to avoid lies, things that are considered to be lies in logic, things that just can't happen. You can't say fishes fly because you want to argue on the point that fishes are supposed to have wings. You understand? That's not logical. That's a logical fallacy. You also have to avoid hasty generalizations because you're trying to make a point. You don't just jump and say this happens like this when there are always exceptions. You have to realize and consent to the fact that there are always exceptions. So avoid hasty generalizations and ad hominem attacks. Ad hominem simply means personal attacks. Personal attacks to your opponent. You don't attack your opponent when you're writing an argumentative essay. You focus on the topic. You don't go see your head. It's because your head is like this that you don't know that fishes are supposed to fly. Those are personal attacks and they add absolutely nothing to your argument. They only weaken your argument. The next is clarity and precision. You have to make sure each point is expressed clearly and contributes directly to supporting the thesis. So it's important you avoid ambiguous words. It's important you try to hit the nail on the head with every point that you make in an argumentative essay. So you're going to have to prepare yourself for counter arguments and refutation, not necessarily coming from your opponent, but from in your own argumentative essay. What does this mean? It means that even in your essay, you should be able to anticipate opposing viewpoints and address them within your essay. Acknowledge these counter-arguments fairly and refute them with evidence and logical reasoning to demonstrate the superiority of your own argument. So when you're writing your argumentative essay, you must learn to consider your opponent's point of view. Be able to present points from your opponent's point of view and talk about why your own point, why your own POV is better. So you also should know to use persuasive language. That's another highlight. Use persuasive and assertive language to convince the reader. Employ rhetorical devices such as ethos, credibility, pathos, which is emotional appeal, and logos, which is logical appeal. You must make sure your argument is credible, it is emotionally and logically appealing. When we talked about the descriptive essay, we talked about how important it is to engage your reader's emotions as well as your reader's mind. So in argumentative essays, you have to take that a step further and make sure that the information you're providing in that essay is credible and that outside of your essay, your reader can go and confirm the point you have made and see that these points are actually real. So you must also be balanced and objective. Maintain a balanced and objective tone even when addressing controversial issues. Avoid emotional or biased language that could undermine the credibility of your argument. Even if the issue you are writing about is personal to you, you must ensure that you argue about it from an impervious point of view, from a place where you don't go talking about how you feel about it. Maybe the argument about fishes flying is the reason you had a major rift with your best friend. And so when you're writing an argumentative essay about fishes, the fact the fishes fly, you go all out, you cuss and or do any other thing that is really not relevant to the argument. You have to avoid that, be balanced and be objective. Talk about it based on the fact that people are supposed to know that fishes fly, and not because you want fishes to fly. Next is transition and cohesion. You have to use transitional words and phrases to ensure a smooth flow between paragraphs and ideas. Cohesion helps the reader follow the argument and understand how each point relates to the overall thesis. So it's important that each idea you present, you have to transition in smoothly into that idea to help your reader sew these ideas together, to help your reader get a feel of your point of view from idea to idea. Don't just throw in ideas at random. Anyone you remember, you say, and because of this, I think this thing is this, and because of this, I think this thing is this. No, if you're going to be systematic, then you have to be systematic and take it one after the other. Let each idea you present create a clear perspective of the topic that you're talking about, and you must understand how each point relates to the overall thesis. Not just should it create a good point for what you're talking about, you should also try to always find a way to link it back to the original thesis. That's the first thesis you laid down. Next, we have conclusion. The conclusion should reiterate the thesis statement, summarize the main points of the essay, and leave the reader with a strong final impression. It can also suggest implications, be a call to action, or broaden significance of the argument. Let your conclusion as a final punch be a strong final punch. Don't just say, okay, in conclusion, I hope you've heard what I've said. No, you have to prepare a final argument for your conclusion, which is an active type of argument in the sense that it can call the reader to action. It can leave the reader with a question. It can suggest implications of things that would happen if the reader should not accept your own point of view. All these things should be logical, by the way, like we already said. And this would create a broader significance to your argument. You have to utilize the opportunity of a conclusion to buttress your point the more. It's almost even stronger than you have done in the body of the essay. So let's look at the logical structure of an argumentative essay. You have the introduction, which introduces the topic, provides background information, and presents the thesis statement. Then you have the body paragraph, and each paragraph should focus on a single point supporting the thesis. Typically, these points are presented in a logical sequence, each building on the previous one. So when you're writing the body paragraph, you have to make sure that each paragraph is dedicated to a particular point that stresses on your topic. Don't go throwing in 2 or 3 points in one paragraph and then not elaborate on them effectively. You have counter arguments as a part of the logical structure. So you have to address and refute opposing viewpoints to strengthen your own argument. And then you have the conclusion. So first you introduce the topic, then you present your own points to make the reader understand why you see things from this point of view. Then you present your opponent's point of view, not presenting it as per to argue in its favor. No, you present it and you counter it, and then you conclude. So when you focus on these factors, an argumentative essay can effectively persuade the reader through a well-reasoned and evidence-based argument. The essay should not only present the writer's viewpoint, but also engage with the counter-opposing perspective to build a compelling case. Not just should you present your viewpoint as the writer. Remember that one of the highlights of an argumentative essay is to present a comfortable counter-argument and refute it. That's it for today's class. Thank you.